So, remember, we're going to pretend they're all not here.
Sounds good.
So one of the things when we were speaking earlier that was clear to me is that you each operate in really different domains and have had incredibly different paths into public leadership. One of the things that I did learn, though, is that they all espouse a human-centered design approach to public systems and trying to keep the systems that have been created focused on how do you do better for day-to-day people. They're also all community organizers and engagement practitioners. And I also thought it was fun that we realized that the legacy of public policy runs through the stories that you would share, because Anne helped pass the first Families in Education levy in King County that now benefits Pa Usman Juice organization directly. So that's pretty awesome. And you get some stuff out of that too, and support for your families. So I told you we were going to have a conversation about 3 simple questions. And the first one is really, what is your why? Why do you do what you do?
Well, I want to congratulate the 2 of you, and I am privileged to sit amongst you today. It all started, as you mentioned in your introduction, over 18 years ago. You said it. I became a U.S. citizen on September 7th of last year, after 18 years of being in the United States. And I want to recognize the presence of my pillars and my support system during this time. My wife, Amiseka, is in the crowd. And matter of fact, I want to dedicate this award to Amy. She was 3 months pregnant with my first daughter, Fatima, who is also in the crowd, when I was arrested and detained by immigration, by ICE in 2008. She was 3 months pregnant. I have changed work permit in the United States over 10 times. I was considered a refugee. I was arrested and put in a detention camp for 4 months with a monitoring bracelet on my leg for 9 months. My struggle in the United States is real. I was scared, I was afraid. I needed things that I did not have, that I have nowhere to find. There is no doubt that the system has been broken and still continues to be broken. Now, after I got out of that predicament, I said, I will create something that those that will come after me, immigrants, will not have to go through. So thanks to my entire family, the Seattle Gambian Grammar Association and the seniors. Thanks to my board of directors for supporting me, and everybody else that's here with me today. Things that I needed that I could not have at the time is why I created this organization to support the West African community, and we are providing the cultural relevant wraparound services. Just last week, Friday, I was at the Tacoma Immigration Detention Center doing interpretation for a young West African guy. Our only crime is being immigrants. This is why I do what I do.
Well, Dean, I would say my why started when I was an undergraduate. I had the opportunity to go into battle to help fight for equity and parity for young women and girls in athletics at the university, and it turned into quite a difficult challenge for several years, and it taught me so much about the need to step up and help others and provide voice and work in coalition. take on what may seem insurmountable and intractable. And for those of you who are, for those who are here tonight who have worked with me, they're going to laugh at this, but it also taught me I can be relatively purpose-driven and tenacious and really work hard to lift up other voices and open doors for folks and take on issues that can be to all external viewers seem pretty impossible to solve, but that we can get there and make a difference in many lives when we do. And I'll just say another part of the why that came from that experience was that we all stand on the shoulders of those who come before us. And there were two educators in particular who exemplified that for me and are part of this why. And one was a professor there at the university who she was fighting for tenure for women, female faculty in that era still had to fight to have just the opportunity for tenure and for wage parity. And she read about what I was doing, and she reached out to me and wrote me a letter and said that she would meet with me, and she counseled me and said, I just want you to know I'm here for you, and I'm proud of you for taking this on, and I'll be in your corner. So she opened the door for me and showed me that I had an obligation, to do that for others. And it put me on a path to go to a social justice law school. And at that law school, the dean was a man who'd been very involved in the civil rights movement. He had worked for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and worked with Thurgood Marshall. And one of his colleagues said of him something that just really resonated with me, which was he wasn't afraid to take risks if he thought that what he stepped up to do could make the world just a little more just. And so I took that to heart, and both of those mentors helped form my why that has driven everything since then. So I feel very fortunate to have had a difficult challenge that taught me so much.
So let me just start by saying I'm honored to be in space with both of you. Your whys are very compelling. I probably should have gone first. But nonetheless, my why is around the collective. And what I mean by that, it started a long time ago. And I went to a school by the name of Harrison, which later became Martin Luther King. And at that time, I was around educators and a particular principal that poured into me early on that I'm supposed to achieve. I'm supposed to thrive. Her name was Louise McKinney. And Louise McKinney was also just the principal, but she was the first lady to Mount Zion Baptist Church. And at the time, that was the church that my family attended. And we had this ethic that was built into us at that time that you will be successful. And so I've had an extended family that's been around me since since day one, that's always had the expectation that we would thrive and we'd be successful. I didn't know that going to college was not an option. That wasn't something that I even knew that people thought about, is not going to college. I knew that by about age 5 or 6, I would needed to think about what grad school I was going to. And so the extension of the love and the care that was afforded to me was profound. And so fast forward to sometime in 2020, late 2020, when one of the board members tapped me on the shoulder and said, Brent, would you do this job? I said, absolutely not. But because I'd sat in the seat a couple of times as the number 2 person and watched the abuse that superintendents take. And I said, no, I've seen it, and that's not something I want to do. However, it's always been about service over self-interest. And I come from that as my parents are here in the audience, and my family has had a history of really trying to make situations great for people to elevate from whatever their current situation is. And so as I stepped into the role of the superintendent, it's a big system, it's a bureaucracy, but I carry with it this ethic of support, this ethic of an extended family, this ethic of creating the conditions, creating that brotherhood, sisterhood for us to thrive together. And so I'm also a true believer in public education. I believe it's a game changer. I believe it's our path to liberation. And so when we use terms like equity and justice, it's kind of who I am. It's at my core. And I think about it from a systems level. How can we make this system work for everyone? And so I'm a product of Seattle. I come from here in an authentic, genuine interest to see our community grow and thrive. And I heard Lieutenant Heck talk about the civic health and the civic discourse. I'd like us to get to a place where we embrace our public institutions and we do what we can to be a family, to be an extended family, to wrap around these institutions so that we can grow together. And so my role is the CEO, and the CEO is the Chief Expectation Officer, to make sure, yes, to make sure, again, that we have the conditions to thrive. And so that's how I enter into this space. That's how I want to hold space with you all collectively. And again, thank you for your time today, and thank you for being part of this, for inviting me to be part of this collective.
So when you talked about your why, each of you talked about specific people, right? Which is not the way a lot of times the stories are written. A lot of times people think that leadership is about you just kind of come out and you were born leading, right? And I think it's important that you all are acknowledging that it is community and it is in relationship with others, and that's central to the motivation. Superintendent, you started to talk about your how, so that was the question, the second question, because what's so interesting to me, you each thought about, there's lots of places you could lead, but you decided to lead in a particular way. You responded in a how, you thought about your skills meeting what the world needed of you. So say a little bit about that. Often our students think it's so clear that like everybody knows the how they're going to do it, but in my experience, it really is not that way. Do you want to start, Brent?
Sure. Well, it's a lot about perseverance and keeping the main thing the main thing. We have these really important, tremendously powerful goals, but sometimes we get caught in dealing with all the distractions. I entered into my role during Delta and Omicron. We had a teachers' strike. We've had all kind of conflict and challenges that we've had. But what we've done is try to insist that we keep the main thing the main thing. And it's about teaching and learning. That's what Seattle Public Schools does best. I stack our school district up against any other school district, and our teachers and our school leaders, they absolutely know what they're doing. So for me I have to set guardrails in place so that we can continue to focus. My job is to mitigate the distractions that come into the school district. You all probably have read this thing called the Seattle Times. There's a lot of, let's just say, critique of what school districts do. And we could easily get sidetracked by that. So I spend a lot of time in my how is keeping us focused on what we do best. But specifically, it's around what strategies are we using? And do we have the courage to abandon strategies when they're not working? Do we have the courage to adopt new strategies along the way? And what's our cycle of adoption and abandonment? Do we wait till the end of the year, or do we do it in real time? So we think about strategic refinement. We also spend time thinking about implementation fidelity. Everybody has a great idea, but when it's time to implement, that's a different level. So we're spending time thinking about how are we going to get this across the line. And I've learned from a mentor that no plan survives first impact. And we have to be flexible in order to adopt and be open to feedback so we can change. And then finally, we have to measure what's important. If you're not measuring it, how do you know you're making progress? We are, a lot of us in positions are attached to the performative work, and we want to talk about that and give ourselves credit for that. But the boring work is really what matters around what are we doing to shore up our strategy, our implementation, and are we measuring the right things? And so I think about that in the terms of continuous improvement is always something that we're looking for. And then for me and for most of us that are in service, we have to always know who our clients and customers are and have to center them in every decision that we make. It could be inconvenient at best to, at times when, in our world, when adult issues get in the way of some of the student interest. And how do we mitigate against that? And so really around persevering, staying diligent, being very focused, and trying to, again, mitigate the distractions is our how. See, I'm an organizational development geek, but so if I leaned heavy on that, that's just who I am. So, thank you.
I really appreciate that, and I feel like sometimes what you're talking about is actually what systems don't do so well. The continuous quality improvement and people being able to keep, in your case, the students at the center, it's hard. And I don't know why it's so hard, but it's hard. It's really difficult. Well, Usman, you've told me some stories about your how. Share with us how your organization works.
A few days ago, the four of us had a Zoom meeting to talk about what is going to happen here, and I told them I don't think I am as sophisticated as they are.
Stop that.
And I'm just realizing we have two black men sitting in between two, white women here. Isn't this beautiful?
That's right.
Well, my how is primarily defying the system. We all would agree, for the most part, that the system is broken.
Yes.
And I start, everywhere I sit, I say, we have been guinea pigs for the longest. We have been underdogs for the longest. We have been put in a tight corner. Systemic racism, discrimination, unfair and uneven and unequitable distribution of resources. Yes. Our community was left behind. And I'm saying it because I'm in the center of it all, where now I sit at the table. I will say, thanks to COVID-19 and the death of our brother George Floyd, the emergence of the Black Lives Matter movement, that communities like my community start to have the privilege and the opportunity to sit at a table like this. For the longest, we've been the menu. For the longest, we've been the dessert. And I keep saying, it is about time that we sit at the table where decisions are made. It is about time that we be there to make the dessert instead of being the dessert.
Yes, yes.
I defy the system. My family and some of the people I work with think I'm crazy.
Why?
Every staff that I have, and I recognize all of them, thank you for the good job. For the sake of time, I wouldn't mention your name. The very first time they come on board WAWAC, or even the board, they'll say, take it easy. I said, this is the language they understand. Just this morning before I came here, I was preparing a cost allocation plan that my staff have been working on for the past 3 days. Because of why? We receive some funding to provide housing for our community, and they're asking us for so many different things that big organizations, big institutions, corporate institutions have had for the longest. They have the strategies, they have the know-how, they have the resources, they have the infrastructure and everything. When counties, when federal government, when state government issues funding, they want to prioritize those big institutions and organizations. My how is, cut the funding you are giving to those organizations and deal with us. We are the grassroots organizations. We are the organization for the people. We are the ones sitting there and doing the work for the community. I don't compromise it. I have zero tolerance for it. Gone are the days when we are used to say, come and sit on a colorful platform like this just for the sake of it, to write notes, to take pictures and show out to say, oh, it's all inclusive. Nothing about us without us. That is my how. My how is provide the resources to my community equitably. We provide food for the community. There is a dire need for it. For the year 2023, my board prioritized has three priorities: housing justice, food justice, and mental health. For heaven's sake, the mental health of my community is dearly affected because my people are undocumented. A good number of us go for years to get our situations regularized like I have done. And for this reason, my community fear to go out, to talk, to ask for resources, even when we qualify for it. My how is going to tell my community story. Just 2 days ago, I was on a meeting with a federal agency who wants us to provide some services to my community with no funding, nothing. They just say, oh, come and be part of it. Federal government, state government, local governments want grassroots organizations like us to do a lot of work without giving us anything. My how is defying it and say, unless you want to support us and give us what we need to do this work, we don't want it. A radical approach, yes, this is what I take. I sweat. I work hard. We deserve it. I sit at the table. I met the director of this agency. We're having a meeting, we're talking. I told her our concerns, our challenges, our constraints, that West African languages are not written for the most part.
Yeah.
When we sit down and we attend forum, or you go on websites of different institutions, they will tell you, oh, we have this translated in Spanish, in Chinese, in Arabic, in French. Tell me if there's Yoruba. Tell me if it's translated in Igbo. Tell me if it's translated in Hausa. Tell me if it's translated in Wolof, Mandinka, Jola, Fula, Sarahule, and all the West African languages. So my how is providing cultural relevant services. We translate things in our local languages. On a regular basis, we are providing language interpretation and translation, food, housing, education, the after-school program. King County, we have a Bidiu after-school program for our youth in King County and Snohomish County, and we are growing statewide. Our community goes to work do two, three jobs, some people in the community, because of what? Language barrier. Because of what? Undocumented status. Because of what? Sometimes low level of education. People have to support our families back home and support ourselves here. We have a lot of cultural differences, and this needs to be recognized. A lot of entities and institutions don't know that. And I'll say it, some of you might have encountered me somewhere through Zoom or in some of the forums that I attend, some of the fora that I sit at. A good number of people that make laws, a good number of people that make decisions that are sitting at corporate level, at government level, whether local, city, state, or federal or county level, or even in corporate entities, don't know these deeply rooted problems and issues in the different communities, such as mine. And my how is trying to sit at the table, talk to them, educate them, and ask them for us to find solutions together. When I met with this director at one of the federal agencies, she said, oh, that's above me. I don't know what to do. This is written on stone. I said, if you can't do anything about it, the bill is at its first reading. Don't kill the bill. Take it to your supervisor or somebody above you. Schedule a meeting with me and him or her. How can I do that? With time, they schedule it. I meet the next person, the next person. For the lawmakers in the House, they mostly put it on you to say, oh, that's at the state level, that's at the lawmakers level. Let them change the laws. Until that is done, we can't do much. This is my how.
Thank you.
Wow.
One of the things that really I've learned so much from you is how when you are grounded in the needs of your community, you will find out how the system is set up. And you will find out where the leverage points are. And Anne, I think, has spent her career also finding those leverage points. So, of course, we're running out of time, but I'd like to invite you to talk a little bit about your how.
Well, the first how is don't wake up in the morning and be righteously indignant and say someone needs to go fix that, because then you're in, right? So I fail miserably at that. I also fail miserably at the don't pick up the phone when certain persons call and say, would you? It'll only take, and then, and I won't name names of the people here. But in all seriousness, for me, it starts with what's the problem we're trying to solve, and who it is that we could be helping better, and why isn't the system or the policy or the law as effective as it should be, and why hasn't it been remedied before? What's the history? What's the context? Do we have a window of opportunity now that we didn't have before? Has there been a crisis or a change in thinking that's helped move people forward? Is there an opportunity, because we have different decision makers at the table, and is there now research that we didn't have before so we can be more evidence informed? Have there been cases? Has there been litigation that's changed the landscape? And then I ask whose voices need to be at the table, who needs to be heard, whose perspective should be shared and understood, and what are all the things that I don't have expertise in, and I don't have that lived experience. My lens is only what I have been through. So whose experiences need to be reflected, whose expertise needs to be brought to bear, and how do we bring in that coalition so that we can have the best of everybody's thinking and perspective and experiences. And then to ask, when we do that, who's going to be opposed, who's going to be concerned, who's going to prefer the status quo, how are they going to reflect that opposition, and rather than demonize them, try to start with understanding why they might be opposed or concerned, and do they have a valid perspective? Is there something we need to, and we could learn from? And then understand what it is that motivates them and why they take the position they do, and who are the best voices then to advocate with them. To bring forth a strategy depending on the nature of the problem. It may be multi-pronged, right? We may need to reform a system or a practice or a policy. We may need to change a law. We may need to litigate. We may need to go to the ballot box. We may need to train differently. And there are all sorts of strategies, and often you have to do them in parallel. But as we go, we have to be willing to say, you know, the way I thought we should do it might not be the best way, and I need to be open to other ways, and I need to be listening, and I need to assess every barrier and every obstacle and what could possibly go wrong. And then once I do that, I need to take some more protein drinks. And
Paul Usman was talking about sweating. I think there's a lot of sweating that goes on.
And recalibrate, and then take out the three-dimensional chessboard and map it out. And then really, it's so important, and the folks who are here with me this evening all have helped me, have partnered with me, have collaborated with me, have led me, have made decisions that have made these changes possible. And sometimes you have to do it, sometimes there's an opportunity for comprehensive reform, and sometimes you have to do it in phases. And you just have to develop the best strategy for that moment in time where we are, and to understand that there's so much value in doing things in coalition and in partnership. And none of us, if I had all the power to do things myself, it would be a lovely world, but we really are so much better. We thrive in this kind of change when we do it in collaboration and in coalition and allyship. And so many significant things would never have been accomplished if we weren't doing it together. So for me, the how is trying to bring those voices together and that expertise, and then trying to be as principled and as honest and forthright, recognizing that we are asking people to make tough decisions. If it were easier, it would have been done before, and that we need to be trusted, and we need to recognize that we may be in oppositional places on this issue, but we're going to be needing to work together on the next one. And so we need to treat each other with respect and dignity, and in a principled way. And I would also just say that we need, particularly nowadays, to appreciate the fact that there are tensions at play in all of these difficult works. Yes. And we need to do everything we can to bring down the tensions and to respect the differences and to reflect upon where those tensions come from, and that so many of our tough decisions are not binary. There shouldn't be either or, they should be yes and that we can get there if we do that together.
So to conclude, one of the things I'm aware of is that we have an incredibly diverse audience here. I think your son is the youngest, and I believe Dan Evans is the oldest, so we go from about 8 years old to 98 years old, right?
Right.
And I'm thinking about the Evans School students in the room, you know, in just a bit, why would you do public leadership? Why?
I can start. I do public leadership because it is, I believe, the right way to do it. Because you feel what the people are feeling. He said it, Chief Expectation Officer. That's what we are. To serve the people, knowing and feeling the problems of the people, and be able to get up early enough when everybody is sleeping to work on the people's needs. Be able to stay up at night to take care of a need. Be able to stay at the office late. I take passion in doing it. I'm not making this up. Yesterday, we have our food distribution that we do every other week. I was at Restaurant Depot yesterday buying lamb because we give cultural appropriate food to the community. I met a community member there, and she said, "Pausman, why? I mean, I've seen people doing things, but I don't see anybody doing it like you do, especially consistently and for the duration that you do it." I just laughed. He said, so many other people have started things like this, and it didn't go. This same lady has a store and was cutting the lamb for us. In the evening, I was on the phone with the president of the Liberian community in Washington State. He repeated exactly that same comment, and I had two of them talk about it. I told the lady, she's just repeating, he's just telling me what you told me earlier this morning. It is because of passion. It is because you know the people's problems. We listen to them, and all the different programs that we create are based on the needs of the community. Guess what? From a needs assessment survey that was done for us by the students of UW, Bethel. Dr. Rabi Yunusa is here. I recognize her from UW School of Public Health. By having partnership with different agencies, by having partnership with different institutions, by knowing the people's problems and going out in the community and talking about it and going to leaders and lawmakers and people that have a voice to talk to them about the people's problems, to find it. That is what it is. You try to devise solution, and you try to see what works. You keep it. By engaging the community is an important thing. And I believe it is the bedrock of what everybody should do. Because if you know what the people are feeling, and you take up that responsibility, you definitely will have no choice but to work for them. Before I let it go, I want to recognize Group Health Foundation, Anatai Foundation now, who are my bedrock and providing life support to my organization, them and the Community Foundation of Snohomish County and Verdant Health Commission. I invited them here to come and celebrate this with me. It was tough. They gave me $75,000 in 2020, which I used to open the space that serves as a safe haven for my community now. That is public leadership. Because that money could have been used towards doing anything else. But I talked to the board, and we decided to open the office, pay the rent, do all the necessary things that we had to do, and I continued to volunteer to run the organization for years. After putting it, I'm running it from my living room, as you said. That's public leadership. Put yourself last and put the people's needs first.
So I believe all three of us, all four of us, have hope in the unseen, also known as faith. We're also students of the system. Some of us work within the system. Some of us work to change the system. Some of us work to, I can't remember how you mentioned Paul Usman, push the system or break the system even. But we're all students of that, and we understand what we need to do. And we also understand, and some really brilliant person said the system yields the results they're exactly supposed to yield. But we have the audacity to think that we can change it, that we can move it, that we can and sometimes break it, or at least create a seat at the table and invite people in who might influence it in a different way. And so when we think about public service, we're inviting the public in so that we can serve them in a way that's relevant and meaningful and authentic, and that carries us. I think that's our charge. We get energized, and I think if I'm lying, y'all tell me. We get energized by when community comes in and they give us a nugget of wisdom and they give us a strategy so that we can move it in a way that it's going to benefit the greater good. We also understand that this creating system opportunities, when you create system opportunities for those on the margins, the entire system benefits. And so when we start talking about concepts like justice, we know we need to create the conditions for those who've been furthest from justice to get their justice, and then the whole system improves. That's how we can determine when the system's healthy or not. I know in some nations they ask, how are the children? And so if we ask, how are the children first, and somebody says the children are doing well, we know our systems are working. And so we don't stop, we don't sleep until such time as we see outcomes that are optimal for everyone. And so it's around us being studious. It's about us being adaptive. It's about us being open to doing things differently. But we respect the game, as they say. We understand what it is. We just want to make sure it serves our public in a bold and very specific way.
Before George comes back, I just want to say, I just thought about it. Last year, a group of nursing students from UW Bethel were doing their internship at WAWAC, and one of the very first questions they asked me was, Pa Usman, what do you gain out of this?
What'd you say?
It's a sense of fulfillment for me. What I gain out of it is going to bed every day, knowing that I have positively changed and influenced the life of somebody.
Yes.
That's what I gain from it.
Yes.
You've got the last word, Ann.
Say again?
You have the last word.
Oh, I always love to have the last word. Just to reiterate what folks have said, it's about outcomes, it's about changing lives. You know, it's about making sure the system isn't centered around those of us who work in it, but centered around those that we are there to be serving. You know, it's about affecting the social determinants of health. It's about helping the generations that come after us. And whether it's public service, nonprofit leadership, being on the bench, we can each lead from wherever we are, and we can each help improve the lives of those around us. And in fact, we have an obligation to do that. We have a moral obligation to always see if we can leave the world a little better than we found it, and to step up and lead whenever there's an opportunity to do so. So I'm all in, and I just want to also thank you, Dean, for bringing us together, because I just feel it in this room. There are so many people who are dedicated to this kind of public service and community service and commitment to our fellow human beings and approach it with empathy and caring and compassion.
Yes, yes.
And, you know, given what's going on in the world today, it's just so, so important that we are all here reinforcing our shared commitment to doing this kind of work.
Give them a round of applause.
That's it.
Remember to